everyone. Welcome to albertnet. Today we have a bicycling glossary. So lately I've been going through a bunch of decades-old winning magazines, including these special oversized Tour de France editions. And I have to chuckle at the ubiquitous full-page cycling glossaries they always seem to include in these, always featuring a bunch of terms that no newbie ever really needs to learn about, like bottom bracket. I mean, when's the last time a Tour de France was lost or won due to a bottom bracket issue? The other term they love is bidon, meaning water bottle, and it's like, you know what? Nobody calls it that except those Voluminati clowns. So many years ago, I wrote a satirical glossary for the Daily Peloton online magazine, and so it was up there until their server crashed, and I lost all my stories, or they lost all my stories. And apparently they didn't back them up, so I've been trickling those out to albertnet, and that's part of what I've got today. It's actually all of what I've got today. That's all I got. Here we go. Veteran's Dictionary of Modern Biking Usage. It's from March 13th, 2008. So a couple of days before the Tour of California started, I checked the official website looking for a start list, and I couldn't find one. But of course I found the inevitable glossary of bike racing terminology. It had all the normal cycling terms: attack, bonk. You can tell it was written for an American audience because bonk has a little different meaning in the British parlance. I learned this when my wife and I were biking with some of her Reuters friends, and my wife told her boss, "I brought a power bar in case I bonk." And her boss blushed, and she's like, "I beg your pardon." Anyway, this Daily California glossary got me thinking back to all the cycling glossaries I've seen over the years, the backs of race programs and such, and I realized how incomplete they all are. They're all quoting from the same out-of-date document. Cycling has a rich oral tradition that is highly regional and evolves rapidly. So I fear that some of the newer riders on my or any bike club may not be up on some of the more obscure cycling terms, while we veterans may not be familiar with the newest additions to the vernacular. Thus, I created this dictionary. By the way, here's the cycling's own language. Here's the list of glossary terms. And I've actually checked. It doesn't change whatsoever year to year. They swap out the pictures. It's exactly the same text. So it's just sheer laziness. All right, so first entry in my dictionary: ABCs, angry biker clothes, also known as costume, strip, uniform, or kit. See angry biker. Angry biker. A biker who has a fancy bike, fancy clothes, and usually a stern expression, who really needs to lighten up. In other words, just about everybody on the road. Arseless. This is a generic term for your bike, especially the old 3-speed you ride to work on. The origin of this is a novel by the Irish writer Roddy Doyle, and arseless is shortened from the arseless horse. Backwards means slow, especially when you're supposed to be going fast. For example, "Dude, I was so blown, I was going backwards." By the way, if you've noticed some hiccups in the recording, because I have to pause it to sneeze here and again, but don't worry, I don't have COVID. You can't get it through a vlog. Next, bald. This is the condition of the veteran biker's scalp being hopelessly worn out. It also refers to bike tires suffering the same affliction. Ballast. This is the aesthetically ameliorative but physically cumbersome padding that a veteran angry biker tends to develop despite his or her best efforts to remain skeletal. Basso lamento. 1. In music, this is also called a descending tetrachord. This is a musical scale of 4 notes bounded by the interval of a perfect fourth. That is an interval the size of 2 1/2 steps, for example, C through F. Or 2, the widespread sorrow surrounding Ivan Basso's admission to doping, or plant doping, the lying sack of shit. Bibs, cycling shorts with shoulder straps instead of an elastic waistband. These are popular among juniors who fear being pantsed, and also among older riders for the comfort and the corset-like effect. Bike porn. These are the glossy bike catalogs that incessantly arrive unbidden in your mailbox. Biker. This is the preferred term for cyclist among crusty old veterans, as they mock the relative newcomers who insist on being called cyclists. Note, particularly senior writers may despise the term biker, as they were around when this term was used contemptuously, perhaps because real bikers rode Harleys. Bike widow. This is a wife forced to seek companionship outside her marriage, especially during weekends, because her angry biker husband is always off pursuing his suffering centers. Bitter biker. This is an angry biker who is also old. Bleb. This is the almost but not completely broken membrane on a gel packet when the top has been torn off at just the right point so it won't dribble out but can be zipped into your mouth. Etymology. Unknown, possibly borrowed from medical nomenclature. Blow chunks. To ride very poorly. For example, dude, I totally blew chunks in the time trial. This was originally a term for projectile vomiting, though this only happens in a minority of cases. See backwards. Bonk. 1. To lose all energy while cycling due to depleted blood sugar. 2. To lose all energy while cycling for reasons you're still trying to figure out. 3. To partake in a non-athletic but nevertheless vigorous activity with a compatible partner, which is far more enjoyable than cycling, chiefly British. Break. 1. Short for breakaway. 2. A respite from cycling that, when it inadvertently becomes permanent, is called retirement. Bulby. See young bulb, the carbo load. To eat a whole shitload of carbs because you love them and because you can, and because you despise the Atkins craze. Not to be confused with the training nutrition system once used by Bernard Hinault, which just about nobody actually understood. Carbon fiber. Origin. Crazy Berkeley area angry biker who assailed a fellow bike shop customer who was innocently checking out a steel road bike. The crazy biker ranted, "Steel frames suck shit! Carbon fiber! You want carbon fiber!" The crazy biker was eventually asked to leave the store. Neither customer ever returned, and steel frame sets are now a rarity. Chamois. The soft pad sewn into cycling shorts, originally made of the leather of the eponymous antelope, but now almost always synthetic, designed to give angry bikers another thing to complain about. See also Mr. Flippy Floppy and Skid Mark. CO2 inflator. A malfunction-prone device used by an angry biker to increase his blood pressure, while adding needlessly to our landfills, all because he's too lazy to use a proper pump. Coked to the gills. See lubed. Etymology from the short story The Catbird Seat by James Thurber. Crapture. Gratifyingly swift evacuation of the bowels, especially right before a race. Crash hat. Bike helmet. Cripple. A triple crankset used by angry bikers who are not only weak and worthless, but also shameless. Cyclosportif. A popular type of amateur race popular in Europe. Did I mention it's popular? Almost the opposite of an American race. Instead of dozens of bikers paying $40 each to suffer for 40 minutes riding around an industrial park, thousands of bikers pay $20 each to suffer for 8 hours tackling some of the more amazing mountains on Earth. The most famous cyclosportif in Europe is La Marmotte in the French Alps. Datas. The arguably interesting but probably valueless information that can be gleaned from modern bike computers and heart rate monitors. Etymological note. This odd double plural form, datas, derives from instruction manuals poorly translated from the German. Dawn patrol. Post-ironic term for a very early morning group ride. Derailleur, the component on a bicycle which shifts the gears and which is often used as an excuse for losing a race. For example, dude, I would have made the break, but I threw my chain. Detonate, to suddenly become unable to pedal the bicycle. Usually the consequence of going too hard for too long on too little training, or from just being fricking old. Dr. Shimano, the big brother of this guide's author, a college team's mechanic known for proselytizing about the superiority of Shimano components. Flat. The sensation you have at the beginning of a ride that your tire is flat, or that you're dragging an anvil behind you. Formerly used to indicate the state of being overtrained, as if that were actually possible within our amateur cohort. Flats, a popular Berkeley area ride known to be about the flattest ride in the area as it features only 1,400 feet of vertical gain. Float, the foot rotation offered by modern cleats to allow your feet to do any damn thing they want instead of being fixed where they ought to be. Geriatric sports, bonking, chiefly British. Glycogen window, the period of 30 to 40 minutes after exercise during which an angry biker eats gobs of sugary snacks because he has convinced his wife/girlfriend or himself that this is actually useful somehow. Goggles, sunglasses. This is a term used by those who arguably go a bit far in avoiding the use of terms like eye shade system. Gooseneck, preferred term for handlebar stem, intended to indicate lack of techie dweebhood. Real old-timers can remember when a stem actually slightly resembled a goose's neck. Grind, anything undesirable, for example. "Gee, those speed plays are such a grind." Etymology, post-ironic mimicry of the wheels manufacturing founder's favorite expression. Hardtail, a word used by dorks to describe non-suspension mountain bikes and moreover to demonstrate their utter dorkiness. Intervals, the increasingly long periods between a veteran biker's rides, formerly used to describe some kind of training method that is too distant and painful to recall in detail. Kit, see ABCs. Etymology, the widespread myth that expensive clothing can turn you into a great biker, like assembling something from a kit. Knackered, totally exhausted, either through completing a difficult ride or race or having detonated during a failed attempt. Light it up, see throwdown. Lima bean, a frame with compact, i.e. undersized geometry such that more than a foot of seat post is showing. Origin, an area rider's analysis of these frames. They're like lima beans. I suppose they have a right to exist, but I don't like them. Lubed, assisted by illegal performance-enhancing drugs. Material, see ride. Mech, derailleur, not to be confused with the French mech meaning big thick guy. Megamix, post-ironic term for an MP3 playlist created for working out on the stationary trainer. Origin, overheard by an area biker, uttered by some dip standing in line at an early 80s U2 concert. Mr. Flippy Floppy, a biking shorts-related ailment occurring only in males, usually results from geriatric sports. Muffin ride, an easy ride, whether or not a bakery exists on the route. Novocaine legs, an all-encompassing muscular complacency making it impossible to ride hard, usually resulting from geriatric sports. Out of shape, a term of deceit used by an angry biker to indicate that he secretly plans to attack you and hopes you'll underestimate him. For example, "Dude, let's go super easy today because I'm so out of shape." PCT, peak conversational threshold, the degree of effort beyond which a rider can no longer keep up a conversation, and a useful indicator of who's got the upper hand. Plastic, a derisive term for carbon fiber. See carbon fiber. Pocket climber, a very lean, slight biker who specializes in hill climbs, generally used bitterly by someone too heavy to climb well. Podium, the three-tiered boxy platform that winners get to stand on, not to be confused with a lectern, which is the stand that holds a lecturer's notes. Etymology, Latin from the Greek podion, base, diminutive of pous pod, meaning foot. Okay? Positive sensations. This is a general feeling of surprisingly plentiful strength. Origin, countless bike racing news stories, either a popular expression in the European peloton or a lazy approximation of one or another non-English expression. Post-ironic, indicative of a biking term that was mimicked in the spirit of mockery until it gradually evolved into standard usage. Psyched, caffeinated, especially in accordance with an undoping regimen. See undoping. Race weight, the weight of your bike without pedals, as if you could pedal without them. Origin, formerly referred to a rider's weight during the racing season before the focus shifted from fitness to equipment. Rack, see stationary trainer. Origin, short for torture rack. Rain bike, the second road bike that an angry biker would ride on rainy days if he actually rode on rainy days, mainly used when the primary bike has a flat tire. Recovery. The occasional return to an area biker of one or more of his stolen bikes. Formerly used to indicate restoration of a biker's physical capacities back when this was actually possible. Retirement. The phase of life during which an angry biker pretends he doesn't race anymore, but actually merely refocuses his competitive impulses on friends and innocent strangers. See break. Ride. A bike. For example, dude, just 4 months more and I'll be rocking my brand new Ultimate Superfly ride. Road look. Term that describes a relative novice who is shaming you. For example, I was going about as hard as I could and then this frickin' road look dude passes me. Origin. From the saddle with road look printed on the back that came on cheap Fuji bikes back in the 1970s. Royal. This is the coffee shop at the corner of College and 63rd in Oakland, regardless of what the current owners feel the need to call it. This is a meeting place for local angry bikers. School. To shame by outperforming on the bike. See road look. Sew-ups. Bicycle tires with a casing, usually made of silk or Egyptian cotton, that is sewn together so it completely surrounds the inner tube. These must be glued to the rim, ideally with Vittoria or Clement. We always called it Clement. It's probably Clement. Cement known as Red Death. These are gradually going extinct because they're a total pain in the ass. Skid mark. This is the discoloration of the chamois caused by sweat. Only sweat, I swear. And the reason for the modern chamois being blue or black instead of brown. Soaps. See sew-ups. Spank. See school. Spare tube. This is the contents of a veteran biker's spare tire. See ballast. See also carbo load. Stack hat. See crash hat. Stationary trainer. This is an apparatus that enables an angry biker to turn his regular racing bike into a stationary bike, used primarily as a paperweight or conversation piece. Stuffing. The sum of an angry biker's physical resources. For example, poor fellow, he's had the stuffing knocked out of him. Chiefly British. System, a fancy word for system used by somebody who's trying to seem sophisticated in Euro, for example. Dude, these aren't sunglasses. This is a highly advanced factory eye shade system, okay? Technova. 1. Overly modern, gimmicky, unproven, and or shoddy. For example, dude, that Aero helmet is so Technova. 2. Defunct nickname for Dr. Shimano's kid brother. Origin, model name of awful Panaracer tires that came on late 80s Miatas. Throw down. To attack, usually foolishly. TI, bike bling. For example, man, Eden is a really high-end shop. So much TI there. Origin, uttered by an area biker who refuses to divulge what, if anything, the letters stand for. Tie, see titanium. Titanium, one of the most plentiful elements on Earth, used for increasing bike industry profit margins. Toe clip overlap, the characteristic of a properly designed frame where the shoe hits the front tire when clipped into the pedal with the crank in the 3 o'clock position. Lack of toe clip overlap indicates too shallow a head tube angle. Understanding of head tube angles indicates nerdiness. Tool. 1. See school. 2. Somebody who unpleasantly increases the pace of your group ride at a time when other angry bikers want to loaf. Torched. See wappered. Tranya. Energy drink. Origin. An episode of the original 1960s Star Trek in which the gentle Ben-looking alien says, "Drink. It's Tranya. I hope you relish it as much as I." Tubulars. See sew-ups. Undoping. The systematic non-consumption of caffeine designed to create a freakish lack of tolerance for it so that a single pre-ride no-dose can instill the effect of an illegal performance-enhancing drug. Vain. Possessed of a specific type of vanity common to bikers with really veiny legs. Wappered. See knackered, chiefly British. Widowmaker. A dangerously rusty bike, or one that has been inherited from a fellow angry biker who is convinced it harmed his knees somehow. Young bulb, a young rider, especially an enthusiastic one. Origin, nickname for Paul Kimmage in the early 1980s.